be talking about healing. I'm excited for this word because this is a really, 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 really good word. It's gonna help a lot of people. Um, hopefully. But before I get started, I just want to say, although I don't think people are gonna see this, but let me see, what does that do? Um, sorry. I don't know how technology works, even though I'm a youth. Um, Let me just first start out by saying thank you for the support that I get. I see that, some people come on here and like the video and give me hearts and all that stuff and comment encouraging things, and I appreciate that. And I don't mean to be rude that I don't address it. It's just very difficult for me to speak and address the comments. Maybe I'll get better. I've only done this like a handful of times, so maybe I'll get better and be able to address the comments. But as of now, I cannot do that. So just forgive me. Um, but I appreciate you, and the Lord sees, your kindness, encouragement, defense. He sees all of that. So, God bless you. And if you are someone coming on this page who doesn't know, um, yes, my page is a ministry page. I speak on the things of Christ. I speak about Christ. And so, don't be alarmed if I start speaking about that kind of stuff, okay? Um so that's just to let you know. So I think I'll just get into it, and hopefully maybe people will join me. If they do, great. If they don't, the video, I now know how to save videos, so the video will be there on my page. So yeah, let's just get into it. Healing is the topic. Healing is the thing on everyone's mind nowadays. The Lord has really pressed this subject on my heart a lot lately. Like, it's really, really, really been a thing. And I'm like, hey, um, it's really been such a topic recently, and I'm like, dang, okay. I guess I gotta speak on this. If you haven't watched my most recent video, it talks about what is it? I don't even remember. Um Generational trauma and the relationship to mental health, and looking at it from a spiritual lens, of course. So that's what we do here, right? And it's kind of a long video, but I would recommend that, if you want to skip the first 30 minutes of it or whatever, um, you can. And I would suggest you watch that video. It's a really, really good video, very insightful. Um, the words are not my own. They're what the Lord gives me. So it will really help you. So yeah. Um, but yeah, so we're kind of looking at things from the perspective of generational traumas, what that looks like, because we've been throwing those words around, and it's like, what really is that? What really is that? Is it, you know, what are we looking at when we're talking about that? We need to know that it really is a it is a real thing. It's very much a very real thing. And the more we realize that, the more we can actually begin to have healing and freedom from it. Like, you can't have healing and you can't have freedom when you don't even know what you're dealing with. And unfortunately, the view of us all is very limited. That's just how it is. But when you apply the spiritual understanding of it, a you get a depth of understanding that just isn't present in with natural understanding, natural, intellect, natural wisdom. And that's the beauty of understanding things from a spiritual angle. So, that absolutely needs to be applied when we're talking about generational trauma, because it can't just be like undone just like that. We're talking about something that's so ingrained, from parent to offspring to next generation to next generation. It's something that's going to take some work to undo. It's not just going to be like a given. It's not just going to be something that is just one therapy session that I feel better. And that's what we're going to dive into. We're going to dive into what healing really looks like through Christ and how it's different from the world. Because there's a worldly version of healing that is fine. Like, if that's where you're at, I am not condemning that at all. Like, go to therapy, speak to someone, please, please, please. I'm not at all coming against that. But there is a deeper sense of healing that you can gain for free and without, you know, that will truly be healing and truly set you free, rather than maybe a band-aid solution. And I'm not saying that therapy is that. I'm not saying that at all, but it can be. So it can be. I've realized that, like, when it comes to therapy, like, first of all, you have to consider the therapist, because some therapists just aren't good. And then you also have to consider yourself, and what are you really seeking? Are you really seeking healing, or do you just want to be heard? Um, if you go from therapist to therapist to therapist to therapist, and every single one of them has a problem, the common denominator is probably you. There's probably something that is not settled in you that needs to be worked out in you. Especially if they're saying the same thing. I can't even like express, like, it doesn't even have to be therapy. Oh my gosh, like, just in general, like, dealing with people. You've probably all dealt with someone who at one point has said something, like, or not said something, but has said, um, you know, oh, so and so told me I'm like this, and I keep getting this comment, or they told me I'm like this, she told me I was like that. And it's like, well, have you, like, examined yourself? Have you can you see where they're coming from? If you're getting a comment more than once, there's a really good chance that there's some validity to it. I'm not saying 100%, but there's a chance. So anyways, let me not drone on and on, because I don't want this to go too long. But yeah, we're gonna look at healing. Trying to decide if I want to do a personal story on this, or if I want to. Sorry, give me a second. I think I'll do I think I'll do a story a little bit later. So when it comes to worldly version of healing versus Christian or spiritual understanding of healing, it does need to be understood that we're in two different levels there. I actually wrote a visual down. I don't know why I did this, but hold on, give me a second. I like visuals, so maybe it'll help y'all. I don't know if it will, but anyways. So, I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if that'll even help anyone, but is it backwards? It might be backwards. Sorry if it's backwards. Looks like it might be backwards. Well, anyways, it says healing on top, and it says healing is composed of two different parts. Oh my gosh, yeah, I don't think you can see that, huh? Maturity and freedom. I'm gonna put this down because I don't think you can see it. So, healing is composed of those two parts: maturity and freedom. Now, healing obviously looks different from person to person. there's several reasons why why that's the case, but it looks different from person to person. But when we realize that healing is not just like, oh, I just need healing. Okay, well, what is that and what does that look like? Because how is it that I, a follower of Christ, have a level of healing that I don't see around me, that I have a joy and a freedom and a love and a like excitement about life and about people and about self that I don't see in the world around me? What is the difference there? And is there even a difference there? Well, obviously there's a difference there, but you know, how is that possible? Because the whole world is going to therapy. The whole world is, doing this and doing that and saying it works for them. Yet we're still pretty angry people, pretty disgruntled. I've noticed like one interesting thing when it comes to therapy and people's healing journeys, and I'll talk more about this later, but some people will take therapy language or stuff dealing with healing and use the terms that they've learned and weaponize them against people who aren't on the same level, who aren't, where they're at. I'm going to come back to that because it's a really important part. But um that's actually a lot of what I'm seeing, unfortunately, nowadays, where people are almost becoming, I don't even really know the term for it, almost conceited with their healing, almost like, I was listening to someone who was a therapist talking about how therapy has been glorified to this like religious standard, and how people, it's like almost like, I'm in therapy, you're not in therapy. Oh, like I'm looking down on you. Like obviously, like what's wrong with you that you don't want to, do better and be better? Like that's a problem. That is actually speaking from a place of not being healed. So I am going to address that. So, anyways, so healing is composed of maturity and freedom. Maybe there's more to it, but that's just what the Lord showed me. Maturity and freedom. So, what does this mean and what does this look like? Well, the maturity aspect of healing can come with age. However, that age and maturity is not what is it, like mutually exclusive? No, 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 no. Absolutely not. I'm sure anyone can agree with me on that. Maturity is a choice. um there is no just, waking up and I'm just going to be mature. It's a choice. Mature Walking with the maturity, or walking with maturity and maturing, both in the natural, emotionally, mentally, and also spiritually, you have to be an understanding individual. You have to be a considerate individual. You have to realize your reality may not be other people's realities. There's an element of grace to it as well, which I think is really like beautiful. If you are someone who walks in grace or wants to walk in grace, maturity will go along with that automatically. And vice versa. If you want to be mature, you're going to have to learn what it is to walk in grace. Maturity is something that, again, you have to kind of seek it yourself. Some, to a degree, sorry, some of it can come from age. God can also mature you. And I think his maturity level is just the quickest, best, easiest, like, so good. Um, because if you ever seek him on any situation, he will give you his perspective, and automatically it will come with just because it's the language he speaks, it will come with a level of understanding of the other person, of considering the other person, blah, blah, blah. And so automatically maturity sets in. Of all the things that the Lord has taught me, maturity, like, there have been times where he set me aside to learn the lesson of this, learn the lesson of grace, learn the lesson of love, learn the lesson of all this stuff. Maturity was just something that just came along with it. It wasn't like he set me aside and said, okay, now we're going to work on your maturity. No, it just went along with it. Um, so that's, that's what maturity looks like. And it is important that we realize, because back in the day, people would say stuff like, oh, like, maturity or wisdom goes along with aging. And that's just not true at all. That's just not true. It can. Certain life circumstances will force you. I remember, like, when depression started to lose its grip on me when I got to like the age of 18. It's not that I didn't have depression, but it certainly started to lose its grip because I was busy. I had life. I had to work. I had school. I didn't have time to like sit there and be sad. Um Not fully anyways. So that did help, and that's important. But yeah. So okay, now let's look at freedom. I don't have anything else to add about maturity. So we'll just look at freedom. So freedom is an interesting concept in the world versus from spiritual understanding. Freedom in the world suggests no rules or very limited rules, doing your own thing, doing whatever you feel like, whatever you think, whatever. That's freedom, right? Arguably, some of that looks like freedom. Keyword looks like. I find it so interesting, like I mentioned earlier, that within going deeper with the things of Christ, and not only knowing, like, okay, there's the 10 commandments, and there's, the like, these people will not inherit the kingdom of heaven and all that stuff. Never mind all those like rules and stuff. Now the Lord, how he speaks to me is he gives me the spiritual insight of things, which comes with more rules. The spiritual world is governed by rules. It's just how it works. So, how is it that I am able to walk in more freedom? I mean, the freedom that I walk in, I boast about because it is like tangible. It's like literally I feel lighter. Literally, like I want to like just pass it on to someone else, just even for 30 seconds so they can feel how it feels. I wasn't always like this. How is that possible? Well, I'll give you this. The worldly understanding of freedom is the reason why we have all the chaos going around that we do right now. All the war, all the division, all the hatred, all the whatever is because of our ideals of freedom. This idea that we should be able to do whatever we want to do. And that would look like freedom. Another term for that, politically or social politically, would be called anarchy. And it's funny how us in the West, we will praise places like Japan or Korea or a place like that where everyone seems so courteous and everything is so like orderly and all this stuff. We praise places like that. But do we realize that the reason why those places exist and function the way that they do is because we have people who are willing to say, yes, we need order. Yes, we need to follow. We can't just all be doing our own thing because that just leads to chaos. It's funny how that works. Like we praise the society, but we don't want to do the work that would create that kind of society here in the US of A, right? So that's what it kind of boils down to. We don't experience freedom because we have a misunderstanding of what freedom is. That's just that's that's it in a nutshell. We don't have a full understanding of what freedom is. So we actually keep ourselves in bondage, to be honest. If you think anarchy is freedom, where everyone is doing, everything, obviously that's a little bit of an extreme. Let me not even go that extreme. Let's just take it from a perspective of a household. Mom and dad don't agree. They undermine each other, whatever the case is. You got this one over here doing this one over here doing this. You have no unity in the household. How long do you think that's going to last before someone files for divorce, before someone files for emancipation? There has to be that's not even a thing. It's not even a thing in a household. Sorry, there was a squirrel. It's not even a thing in a household. If two parents can't agree, they recognize, okay, this is not going to work. We as a society, we continue to disagree, and we might say we recognize this isn't going to work, but we continue on, looking for no place to understand one another, unfortunately. So we misunderstand freedom and we end up in bondage because of it. You know what? This kind of reminds me a little bit of, um, excuse me, I'm going to be a little bit of a nerd here for a second, but have you ever read Plato's Allegory of the Cave? And the people who, I'm not going to go into that, so you're going to have to read it, but uh, there's people who are in bondage and one of them gets set free. And he goes and he tells the people who are in bondage, like, oh my gosh, out there in the world, there's this and there's that and there's this. And they're like making fun of him and like, disregarding him. And if I'm not mistaken, that was a metaphor for like intellect and some of how society runs and everything. But really, it's kind of a metaphor for how we reject God, which I find really interesting. I mean, he probably didn't mean that, but that's how I see it. And this isn't coming from a place of like, I myself have done that too. I'll probably share my testimony at some point, but I went through a period of time where I was like so anti anything having to do with the Bible, God, any of that stuff, because I saw it as just a bunch of rules. And if you see it as just a bunch of rules, why would you continue? No one wants to follow that. I mean, some people do, I guess, but like, I mean, I wouldn't. There's no personal conviction with that. Like, why would you want to just follow a whole bunch of rules? God doesn't even want that for you. God does not even want that for you. He doesn't want you to follow a whole bunch of rules without understanding. Now, there's a difference between demanding that he tell you why, because that was my angle. I was like, well, why would I even need to follow that? And I was like, I won't follow it until I have understanding. And I find it so interesting how now he's spoken to me about that deeper understanding and I can barely handle it. It's like, okay, Lord, you were right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Now I've gotten myself into trouble because now it's like, okay, I'll give you the spiritual understanding of things. And it's like, oh, I can't handle this. Now I see why you just say, do not murder. Now I see why you say, do not do this, do not do that. Because we can't handle it. We really can't. Really, like, it's heavy. It is heavy. If you don't understand, like, it's heavy to balance the weight of the spiritual and the natural. Both are pulling at you at any given time. I'm like, I'm out. I'm just gonna pretend like I don't know any of this exists. Can't do that. And if I go too spiritual, I'll end up in like schizophrenia or something. So I just, it's heavy. It's not light, and I understand why he just asks us for obedience rather than telling us every little reason as to why. And my understanding is limited. Obviously, I'm a human being. Like, he gives me spiritual insight, but I am like down here as far as spiritual insight goes. Like, there's people who know way more than me. So, anyways, going back to freedom. So, we think that freedom is we have this false idea of what freedom looks like, and that is where we get into trouble. We get into trouble because of that. If I were to define it, I actually wish I had that actual definition with me, but if I were to define freedom, I would just say that it's something equal to truth. Where there's truth, there's freedom. Where there's truth, there is freedom. But here's the thing. If we don't have the truth within us, aka Jesus Christ, we'll accept versions of the truth that aren't the full truth, and we'll get partial healing, if healing at all, really, but just partial healing, which, yeah, if it's just partial healing, do you consider that healing? I don't know. That's for you to decide. Do you consider that healing to only be partially healed? At one point, I probably would have, but no, I definitely would have. But now, I don't know. I don't know that I would. I feel that way. That I think that way. So, freedom is found only in Jesus' name. Like I said, where there is truth, there is freedom. I'm gonna give some verses that talk about that. Actually, I'll give the references and then I'll probably circle back to them if I can remember what they say. So John 8:36, John 10:10, John 14:6, and 2 Timothy 1:7 are some really good verses to accompany this message. I will recite them probably at the end if I can remember. So, our freedom is found where truth is found. And I'm going to prove it to you. Well, the best that I can. So, when I was in the world, or more devoted to the things of this world than Christ, I'll just say, I went from label to label to label, like finding validity and identity in different labels. It could have been anything. It could have been politically, social politically, generationally, I don't know. Um Philosophically, sexually, anything, right? And within each of these labels, I found a little bit of truth, a little bit of something that spoke to me, a little bit of something that validated me. However, the very fact, oh, and also religiously true. Actually, mm, I don't think I ever claimed another religion actually, but I did do a lot of like research and stuff like that. Um, because I was like, I want to see which one is true, right? The very fact that I went from one to another to another to another, and I never felt that sense of rest. It was always like, okay, what does this one say? What does this one say? What does that one say? Speaks to the lack of truth that was in them, which I didn't even, at the time, I didn't recognize it as that. I hung on to the little bit of truth that was offered within these different identities, or not even truth, but like, I suppose, like validity, um, which felt like truth. But I didn't realize that me jumping from one to another to another to another meant that there was something that was fundamentally missing there for me. And what even, and oh, not even what I was chasing. What I was looking for, as I see it now, was Christ. I was looking to fill a Christ-sized hole in my heart that only he could fill, that I didn't recognize. So my understanding of truth was not very pure, I'll put it that way, at that time. And most of our understanding of truth is not very pure. And we all have different understandings of truth. And that in of itself speaks to how flawed our view of it is here on earth. So it says in the word, and it's in, oh, is it John? It's either the John 10:10 or the John 14:6. I don't know. Someone knows better than me. I am the way, the truth, and the life. And where there's truth, there's freedom. Truth and freedom go hand in hand. However, this world will give you a version or something with a bit of truth. And without realizing it, without being spiritually sensitive, you will take on a burden, an ideology, whatever, that will only um that won't prosper you. That's what happens with every form of freedom that we seek outside of the things of Christ. We will find ourselves with burdens, with with ideologies, with thoughts that will only weigh us down and ultimately lead us away from God. And just to give like a really good example of this, I'm not even going to go to an extreme, like, some crazy ideology or anything like that. I'll just stick real close to home. Religion. Religion in of itself, the gospel of religion can be something that can bind people. In fact, actually, that's my personal view of it. It keeps people bound. It's not, religion in of itself can't give freedom. It's only Christ Jesus who can give freedom. And it's mentioned in the word where God says something like, "You praise me with your lips, but your heart is far from me." I think he's talking about the Israelites in that verse. But he also calls out the Pharisees. Jesus also calls out the Pharisees. Something about like your love for tradition and everything. And I'm like, dang, that's deep. So freedom is not found in any ideology, any thing this world can offer you. It's only found in Christ Jesus. True freedom. True freedom will look like you are able to carry it even when your circumstances may suggest you should abandon it. I'm thinking like along the lines of like people who embrace like certain spiritual beliefs and stuff like that outside of Christ, or um doesn't even have to be that. It could be like philosophical ideology and stuff where you find yourself, you know, being so free and in tune with your spirit and all that stuff until life gets a little challenging, life gets a little trying. Then you're like, oh shoot. All of a sudden, this meditating ain't working so much for me. All of a sudden, seeing all life as sacred and, which actually is a good thing to good view to have. But it doesn't work when, that person just pissed you off real bad. So freedom will still stand. If you're truly free, freedom will stand even when your situations are chaotic, even when you feel you have every reason to give up, even when, you know, your ideology might be shaken or you're shaken or your life is shaken, whatever the case is, freedom will be your safeguard even in those times. And that proves that someone is truly free. So, how I'm seeing this in society right now, um, one thing that I'm seeing that's kind of a problem I talked about earlier was that people are now, we are living in a privileged time. This is my dialogue with the Lord, that we are now in a place where we can talk about how we feel, talk about how we think. And by and large, most of us have a little bit of a platform. And I don't mean necessarily social media. Like, most of us can be heard nowadays because there's so much conversation around mental health and that it's even a thing and all this stuff. So now, kids as well as women as well as whomever can talk about how they feel, and it's not like you should know your place. that was a product of a time where we didn't have that privilege. And while that was how it was during that time, we have to understand that time has moved on, and we can't still be holding on to those kind of ways of being. God has literally blessed us by giving us, you know, us in the West, we have a serious blessing of, I don't want to say luxury, but in comparison to someone who has to work to even eat that day, has to kill their food to eat that day, or forage their food, whatever. Yeah, we're living pretty luxurious. And because of the society that we live in, we have now been able to consider more than just survival, more than just the here and the now. We can consider our feelings, our thoughts, our dreams, all this stuff. And that's a blessing. Like, people don't realize, if you take it for granted, it's because either things have not been very real for you at any point in your life, or you're really young, or you haven't um, dealt with people, talked to people enough from other cultures who don't have that luxury. I was reading something that was talking about mental health in like Eastern countries, and just how it's not a problem because people don't even get to explore it, basically, which I found to be really interesting. So we're living in this privileged time, and we need to recognize that. That would be my charge against the older generations, or people who just, don't think, we need to talk about this kind of stuff. Well, sorry, from even a spiritual angle, you're wrong. Number one. Number two, this would be my charge against the younger generation. Sorry about that, we have sought a level of healing because of our traumas, our past, our whatever the case is. And it's good. It's a very, very good start. Very admirable, Good for you if you are in therapy. Good for you if you are seeking help, trying to better yourself, because ultimately that's what it is. Hopefully, you're trying to better yourself, and by bettering yourself, you will benefit those around you, and hopefully society at large. However, some of the younger generation, or people who have become aware mentally and stuff, with mental health stuff, some of them have become very, very, very prideful. Just straight up prideful. Where, like I was mentioning earlier, you start becoming aware of like certain terms, like, and we see this on a societal level. you know um I guess maybe it was a year ago or something, the term, yeah, no, narcissism was everywhere. Everyone was a narcissist. Before that, it was the term gaslighting. Before that, it was the term toxic. These little like therapy words that we think are just something you can just throw around because it's the word of the day, because it's become a trend, is so not it. So not it. So not right. And I'm not going to deviate into that, but um what it actually speaks of, and what the main part of this message is, what it speaks of is someone who is not healed. Someone who is not truly healed. What true healing will look like is you will not only be freed or delivered from this ideology, this way of thought, this view of self, whatever. But you will also, it will be accompanied with a level of grace and understanding, and let's go back to my little diagram, maturity, which lends itself to understanding, grace, all that kind of stuff. This is why I say healing is composed of maturity and freedom. You can't have one and not the other. If your revelation of, okay, say you grew up in a household that, like all of us, wasn't perfect, and there was some issues. There was some, you know, maybe your parents weren't emotionally available. Yeah, I get that. I feel you. I feel you. The easiest thing in the world to do would be to start to realize, wow, they weren't there for me here this time. They always made their problems my problems. Their problems were my problems, and my problems were also their problems. There was no understanding of me and hearing me. There was no room for me to feel. As soon as I felt, I was told I'm too emotional. And it was every time. And it's like, every time I'm too emotional? Every time? Come on now. And this is why parents really need to be very gentle. When I say that, I don't mean let your kids like disrespect you or run the show or anything like that, but there needs to be a understanding of gentleness. It's one of the fruits of the spirit. There needs to be an understanding of gentleness because many kids are scarred, to be honest. Yes, we do have kind of a soft society. There's an element of truth in that, but also the truth is that many people feel like they're hurting. And you're not just going to be like, no, you're not hurting, you're fine. You know, you're not going to do that. So we're going to have complete chaos and anarchy, at least emotionally speaking, I should say. Um, if we don't realize, like, if we don't just be understanding with people. It's not that hard, but it is, but it's not. It takes work. It's not just a given. It's our nature to just want to solve things, want to, like, interject our opinion or whatever the case is, but we need to be considerate of the other person. And we need to exercise it daily, not just here and there, not just when we feel like it. So nowadays, a lot of people, and this is like, it's not just a young person thing. I see it in the church as well. People will be freed from something. It could be anything from going to a certain church or belief or whatever the case is. It can look like so many different things. And they'll be freed from it. And then they'll start to develop this hardness or callousness on their heart where they will then become aggressive with people who aren't there yet. It's like, I was freed from that. How can you not see? Blah, 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 blah. And it's something that we all kind of tend to do. I've done it as well, and I've had to reel myself back in and ask the Lord to forgive me and say, look, I was there too. When you walk in true freedom, you will not have that hardness of heart within you, that callous disposition of you're missing it, I gotta set you straight kind of an attitude. That's nothing but the spirit of pride. And if the spirit of pride, I mean, look, we all have pride issues. I talked about this in the last video. You can watch that if you want to know more. We all have pride issues. There's no escape of that. But we don't have to be subject to a spirit of pride. I can boast in the fact that I have been set free from a spirit of pride. That doesn't mean that I won't do things in pride. That's gonna be a daily thing. But my disposition is to either consider first what the Lord says on this situation, his view, do a silent prayer and seek that, you know, if it's like in real time or something, or try and look at it from the other person's perspective first and examine my hand in it first rather than just dismiss someone. That's my like go-to thought. But that doesn't mean I always get it right. And there's other prides that I can slip in throughout the day. So I'm not subject to a spirit of pride, but I will always have pride. Unfortunately, that's just how it goes. So if you're truly in freedom, you will not feel the need to like set someone straight. This is actually really, really a big thing in the church. Maybe biggest in the church rather than any other place. Maybe not, I don't know. But it's a huge thing. If you're truly healed, you'll see that people come to their healing at different times and different places. You can pray for people, but it's like that verse in, I want to say it's like Matthew, where the guy is delivered from some spirits and the spirit is cast out, goes to some dry place, looks for rest, you know, and the guy gets clean because the spirit's gone. And the spirit says, you know, I find no rest. I know I'll go back to the house I came from, but let me bring 7 more spirits more evil than I. And he goes back and he makes the man's condition worse. What the Lord was speaking on is the fact that it's not just enough. Oh my God. Jesus. Wow. Okay. Wow. He blew my mind just now. What he was speaking on is not is that it is not just enough that we are freed, that we are delivered, that we have been made aware of what the issue is. It's not just enough. It has to be replaced with something. Somebody else has to occupy that house. I'm sorry. I'm just like in awe because I've been saying this several times. I also did a conversation on this about deliverance from delusion and how like if you only have been delivered from delusion and you haven't been healed, you're still in delusion. And I didn't even think about the verse aspect of this, how this relates. If you do not only target the delusion but also heal from that delusion, and like you can't just address it, the root of why you even got there really, really, really needs to be understood and needs to be rooted out of you. It can't just be, okay, I understand, and then you then like just brush it off, because you will end up taking that same disposition and applying it to a different way of thought, a different ideology, a different view of self, whatever the case is. Something else has to occupy that house, and it's got to be hopefully the Lord Jesus. Something else has to occupy that house. And unfortunately, anything outside of the things of him, it all looks the same. It all does the same for you. Nothing. Nothing of value anyways. Nothing to prosper your soul. The house can't just be cleaned. That's what I should title this. The house just can't be cleaned. It's got to be not only cleaned, but occupied by something. Or we'll find ourselves right back to where we started or in worse conditions. So I hope that helps someone. I hope that that understanding is there. You have to be healed. It's not enough just to be delivered. It's not enough just to be aware of the situation. It's really not enough. That's a first start, and they're like, good for you. Like if that's your awareness, good for you. At least, you got somewhere. You started. At least you started, but please know that that's not enough. Healing has to be a part of the equation. So, you know, let's look at that a little bit more. There's the worldly version of it, as I've mentioned, and then there's the Christ version of it. The worldly version of it is like, well, as long as I don't have that person in my life, I'm at peace, I'm healed. As long as, I quit that job, I'm at peace, I'm healed, all that stuff. The worldly version of it really doesn't consider the root, it considers only the surface level. And I've seen this example a lot with relationship stuff. We are ghosting each other and just cutting people out of our lives, and you know it's really cruel if you think about it, to connect with someone. And I'm talking about like if you connected with someone for a while, blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden they're just not, there's nothing. And I've done it, and I've also had it done to me, and it's not okay. It's really not. And I'm talking about more specifically like just like up and leaving and never replying to them again. I'm not talking about like, situations where it's like, no, I can't continue with this. Because you got to know your boundaries. You got to know. If you don't, people will push them. That's for sure. So, with relationships and stuff, and especially with this divide between parent and children, where people are having a lot of issues, children are feeling either emotionally neglected or maybe even physically neglected or whatever the case is, and they're upset, and their way of handling it is to go low contact and no contact with their parents. Now there are certain situations where I'm sure that's fine, like, go for it. But I guarantee you something, if that is your solution, you're not healed. You're not healed. And that pain is going to manifest in another area of your life. You may not see it, it may not be immediately apparent to you, but it will be there. When you start to now look at your parent as like the most evil, and it doesn't have to be a parent, but now you see them like as the most evil, like can't do anything right, blah, blah, blah. Horrible, terrible people because of some of the wrongs that they did to you. You are in danger of pride, serious, serious pride. And the issue with that, well, your soul is on the line. Your very being is on the line. Whether you realize it or not. So, this world values the surface level of that healing, but we need to go a little bit deeper. When you're healed and set free from something, it doesn't bother you. I now understand the whole concept of turning the other cheek. That it's not an act of submission, but it can be a serious act of freedom. To have the freedom of someone says something to you, and instead of reacting or feeling like, okay, well, I need to speak to them, you judge the situation however you need to. But the freedom of knowing, no, actually, I don't have to say anything. I recognize where that person is or isn't, and I recognize where I am. I'm not going to let this bother me. Peace is the portion that I have been given in Jesus' name. I'm not going to let the enemy take that from me. I'm not going to let that person take that from me. Person probably doesn't even know you. That is a seriously divined. Wow, I'm just making up words now. That is a serious divine freedom and healing. And that's what it can look like. That's what it should look like. Us going around and still, maybe not being upset in the same way. Have you ever met someone who swears they're over something, but they just keep talking about those people? It's like, oh yeah, sure, you're over it. Like it's kind of funny to me, but we got a whole lot of people walking around like that and don't even realize it. They don't even realize it. So when Christ has made his healing power, his freeing power perfect in you, you won't feel the need to be unkind to someone else who is still in that place that you're at. You won't feel the need to beat someone over the head who did a wrong to you. I'm not saying don't talk about it. I'm not saying there's not room to communicate. Absolutely. But I mean, if that's what the situation calls for, but don't, like, if it's something that you need, if it's something where it's like I will not have peace until that's a problem. That's a serious problem because you won't have peace. You won't. Because even if things work out in that situation, if that's your disposition, you'll take that into other situations. This idea of like, I have got to have closure to be able to be okay. Closure is a good thing. There's nothing wrong with closure. We should, like, if we can, we should seek to provide closure for people and, people towards us, because it can help with the healing process. But that is not your healing process. Closure is not your healing process. Closure is not your healing. The Lord Jesus is your healing if you want him to be. And he will heal you faster and more efficiently and for free, way more than anyone else ever could. Like, it's just insane. And actually, I've come to realize this is going to be my last point, I think, but he wants to be your healing. And for some of us, whether we like it or not, whether we signed up for it or not, he will put us in situations where no one can be your answer, no one can help you, no one can lift that burden off of you. You have to go to him because he wants to heal you. He wants to be your Jehovah Rapha in this. That has been my 2025, and honestly even a little bit my 2024 actually. But really my 2025. 2024 was tumultuous. 2025 has also been, but he's also worked really cared for me and healed me from all the nonsense of 2024 and some of it of this year as well. He wants to be your healing. That's the level of intimacy that he wants with you. And when he gets to doing that heart surgery on you, that heals you, let me tell you something. There's nothing like it. Nothing like it. No other healing, honestly, will ever be on that level. None. All this for free? Are you kidding me? It's crazy. And he'll get to the depth of it. He'll show you insights. You will swear there will be an issue between you and someone else, and you'll be like, that person just, oh, they did this, they did that, blah, blah, blah. And he'll just be like, and where was your heart in this? Or something like that, something where it's like, are you guilt free? Just very simplistic, and it'll just hit you like a ton of bricks. You'd be like, oh, I remember, I'll just give this little story. I had to do something for the Lord last year, and this was actually something that I needed healing for within this year, where was it this year or was it? I think it was this year, at the beginning of this year. And I was serving somewhere, and I'll just say that this person that I was serving with, because I was at their house, and this person that I was serving with was very traumatizing. I'll just put it in those terms without going into too much detail. And when I came back, I mean, I was pissed and I was hurting. And I eventually had to tell the Lord, look, like, I am hurting. I'm hurting on a deep level. I wake up and I'm angry. I wake up and I want to go off on that person. You need to help me. I don't want to be in resentment. I don't want any of that. You need to help me. And, he helped me. He healed me. Like, I don't feel that way at all anymore. Not even a little bit. I actually feel led to pray for them a lot. But um one of the things he really helped me with was that, and it's going to sound kind of weird, but what he helped me with is that he showed me, and where was your obedience in this situation? Not to discount, and it's very like that verse about the woman caught in the very act. God doesn't just Jesus doesn't just say, "Oh, it's okay, whatever, she messed up, whatever." Nor does he say, "Well, that's the rules, so this is how it is, blah blah blah." He takes a higher and more profound and gentle approach by considering both angles here. And that's how he speaks. Jesus, that's how he speaks to us. He showed me, you wouldn't have sustained some of the injuries, like emotionally, I mean, mentally, had you listened to me. Like, I told you not to engage in that conversation. Now, he didn't say all this, he just highlighted, disobedience to me. But you know there were certain conversations and certain words that were going to be said just because they were going to be said, but a few of them were directly tied to my disobedience. The Lord is saying, do not speak about this. Do not bring this subject up. Do not do it. What do? I do it. Fool. Anyways, so I had to seek healing. And within that healing, the Lord set me free completely. And I mean, literally, y'all, like, I woke up, like, prior to this, I woke up, I would be angry, or I would think back on it and I would get angry. It would be like I was experiencing that situation again. I would feel like, okay, maybe I need to talk to that person and like say all the things I wanted to say. And um I would just get really upset. I would be taken out of the present moment, and it was like, you know, I was back to where I was. And it was really difficult. And I was really going through it. I was badly hurting. And it manifested in anger. And now I don't feel that at all. Now, when I think about that person, my heart feels a little heavy, and I just say, Lord, please just minister to them. Help them, Lord. Help them. I don't want them to miss it. I don't want them to miss heaven. I don't want any of that. I don't want, like they need to be set free from some stuff because they were hurting. So much of life is just us hurting and our wounds one to another. So, healing by the Lord's hand is something very, very profound, and it'll set you free to a place where you will have no affiliation with anything of the past or anything that would draw you back to that place of anger or bitterness or negativity or hurt or anything like that. Like the people who insulted you, who you swore you would never want anything to do with or anything like that, you will find yourself, after the Lord has healed you, you will find yourself wanting to pray for them. You will find yourself wanting to intercede for them. And it's not coming from a place of, oh, they need help. No, it's like, oh my gosh, I recognize what was broken in me because of what the Lord showed me. There's a version of that that's true for them. Oh my gosh, I need to pray for them. I seriously need to pray for them. So thank God that He is God. And I'm not. None of us are. Thank God for that. The verses, I hope that made sense. No one's here anymore, so maybe you'll see it later. I would answer questions, but I don't think there's any questions here, so what does that do? Oh, okay. So, some verses to leave you with that tie into this message is John 8:36. Since no one's here, I guess I can flip through this Bible awkwardly and it won't be so weird. John 8:36 says, let's see, too far. Give me a second. I don't know what it says at the moment. I think it's the one about I am the way, the truth, and the life. I'm pretty sure it's that one. Where is it? So John 8:36 says, if I can find it. Okay, wow, no. I just lied to you big time. That is not it. Okay. So I don't know. It's not John 8:36. It's really interesting. I don't know which scripture that is then. Shoot. Maybe it's, yeah, I don't know. But the other ones that are true, that I don't know why I just closed my Bible, is John 10:10, John 14:6, 2 Timothy 1:7. Sorry about that I don't know what that verse is. John 10:10 says, part B. Well, I'll just read the whole thing. The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. I have come that you may have life, and life more abundant. Not being healed is not living in life and life more abundant. Not being healed is living below what the Lord wants you, how He wants you to live. Why would you not want abundant life? Why would you reject that? Why would you reject that? You'd reject it because you don't see it as that. But Just because you don't see it as that doesn't mean that that's the case, okay? That does not mean that that's the case at all. And this kind of goes with the idea of, I was talking earlier about how there are, if you aren't healed, you'll go from belief system to belief system, and it can look religious, it can look political, it can look whatever. All of it is the same. It all gives way to carnality, which, or the flesh, which in turn gives way to death and the things of this world. I haven't always been able to express this opinion well when Christians come against me with this, but Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, if that is what you find identity in, more so than your walk with Christ, then that's a problem. You actually have an idol, whether you realize it or not. And you will give way into ideologies that, and ways of thoughts that will not be giving you life and life more abundant, because it can't. You'll be slipping into pride, you'll be slipping into anger, you'll be slipping into idolization, slipping into gossip, slander, all that stuff. That's the enemy at work, stealing, killing, and destroying. You're not walking in freedom with that. You're not walking in freedom with that at all. Not at all. Not how you should be anyways. So that's John 10:10. So we're going to look at John 14:6, which says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. I am the way, the truth, and the life. There is no truth outside of Christ. And where there is Christ, there is freedom. Oh, that's what the other John verse is. I don't know what the reference is, and I'm sorry, but it says, those who the Son has set free are free indeed. Sorry, I don't know what that reference is. And then 2 Timothy 1:7 says, for I have not given you a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. That means, it means a lot, but realizing the power that the Lord has given you will equip you to walk in the freedom that you need to, if that makes sense. Realizing the power that the Lord has given you in his name will help you walk in the freedom that he's given you. So praise Jesus. It bothers me that I can't remember that reference because I wrote it down. I just can't read my handwriting. I have it wrong. I don't know what that verse is, but those who the Son set free are free indeed. There is a freedom that is found in Jesus' name that just cannot be matched. Because I guarantee you, if this was like any other ideology, whatever, belief, religion, whatever, I'd be on to the next. I've been really following the Lord for about 5+ years now. But I did prior to that, but I had a falling away period. But that's a whole testimony thing. But yeah, he has set me straight. Anyways, I hope this message helps you. And if it did, please give it a like, comment if you have any questions. And I'll probably be continuing with the podcast thing. He normally gives me my message on Monday, so he'll tell me on Monday or Tuesday, and I'll have a new video up. Thank you for the support, and God bless y'all. Bye.